Chuck Leavell, welcome to Australian Musician.
Thanks so much, Greg. Great to see you, man.
Yeah, and welcome back to Melbourne. You've been here for a whole week. How's Melbourne been treating you?
Wonderful. Great city. My wife, Rosaline, and I have explored the city a good bit. Lots of walking around, Collins Street, Little Collins, and Russell and Elizabeth. And as you know, I had a nice solo gig here at the Cherry Bar, so it's been a wonderful stay.
That was a great gig. 200 people packed into a little club. Do you get the opportunity to do that sort of thing much?
Not a whole lot, to be honest with you. You know, maybe half a dozen or 10, 12 shows at the most a year on my own. Fortunately, I do get the call to do things like the Rolling Stones, and lately been working a lot with John Mayer and other artists, and so it's sort of a rare thing, and especially to do it in this part of the world. And it was a real pleasure, man. The fans were fantastic. You know, I think also because we had the unfortunate cancellation of the Hanging Rock show, a lot of the fans were interested to come, and get some taste of Rolling Stones. But we did get the show in Melbourne. And, I think probably a lot of the fans that were planning to go to Hanging Rock had come to the Melbourne show as well. So hopefully it wasn't totally disastrous.
Yeah. The preparation for this tour, was it any different to any other tour? Any new arrangements or new key changes?
Yeah. Well, the preparation actually began back in 2012 to celebrate the 50th anniversary. And so a good bit of rehearsing took place at that time prior to kicking it off. So then as we did the subsequent legs of the tour, if you will, we did the U.S. leg in 2013 and then some dates in Europe and Asia. Preparation for Australia for this run, for my reason, was very short because our daughter got married on October the 18th, and I had sent notice to the band and all the business people a year ago that I would not be available that date. So when it came about that they wanted to reorganize the tour for Australia, they came to me and said, "What about October?" I said, "Man, I told you." And they said, "Well, could you leave the day after the wedding?" I said, "Oh God, okay, I'll do that." So here we are. But to answer your question, the band's been in good shape over the last couple of years. So rehearsals have gone well, the ones that we've had, and no problems. And we've been able to put a few interesting songs into the set.
Yeah, recording with the Stones, piano, and recording solo, is there any different?
Well, it really depends on the engineer. When I'm doing my solo stuff, it tends to be sort of regional in the southern area. The last record I did was done up in Athens, Georgia, and Tom Lewis was the engineer there. So, you kind of let them go with what they feel comfortable with, as long as it sounds good to me when I listen to it in the playback. Yeah. And, of course, with the Stones, there's been various engineers through the years, and again, I prefer that they kind of do what they feel is comfortable and what blends in with the band. So we're fortunate to work with really talented engineers in all settings.
Do you record with the same piano with the Stones?
No. It depends on location. We've done sessions with the Stones recently in Paris, in London, and to some degree in the States. And then again, for me personally, it's usually regional, somewhere around the South, Athens or Atlanta or even Macon. Kind of depends on what instrument is there.
Yeah, your current solo one, Back to the Woods.
Yeah.
A tribute to the old blues players. The piano players back in those days didn't get the recognition that the singer-guitarists used to get. Was that a reason for?
That's the exact reason for doing this. The impetus was my son-in-law, Steve Bransford, married to our eldest daughter, Amy. Steve is a wonderful man and very talented, and he is a PhD graduate from Emory University in Atlanta. His discipline is American history with a focus on visual arts and roots music. Okay. And so he came to me and he said, exactly what you've just pointed out, that when people think of the blues, what do they think of? Well, they think of guitar players, they think of harmonica, they think of honkers and shouters, but they rarely think of the piano and the role that the piano played in the development of the blues. And it's a very important role, and it's largely overlooked. So Steve said, I think you're the guy to bring this to light.
Yeah.
And I thought, wow, what a great idea, and I'll do it if you'll co-produce it with me.
Yeah.
So that was a lot of fun to have a family member involved as well. And Steve gave me 3 CDs to listen to that must have had about 120 songs on them. You know, they had done this tremendous amount of research. Obviously, you can't, cover 120 songs on a CD, but we began to cherry pick the ones that were comfortable for me and the ones that I felt like I could interpret. But the exercise was not to try to imitate or emulate, but to interpret these tracks that we uncovered. So artists like Leroy Carr, who was a prolific recording artist.
You did five
Five,
tracks.
yeah, I felt like it was, I debated that because it was a lot of Leroy Carr, but he was such an important figure that I thought at the end when we were putting it together, I said, he deserves 5 tracks. And so he was kind of the primary target, if you will. But Little Brother Montgomery, we covered a very rare recording artist, Jesse James. My true musical hero, of course, is Ray Charles. And so we found this wonderful, I think in 1953, that was the most recent recording that we used. Most of this stuff was done back in the 30s, late 30s, early 40s. But anyway, it was a wonderful project. And it turned out well. We may wind up doing a volume 2.
Okay.
Yeah.
And Keith played on a couple of tracks.
Yeah, Keith was kind enough to agree to join the party, and John Mayer, who I've been recording with, and he was kind enough to appear on a couple of tracks. And the rhythm section were the 2 guys that were just very talented. Chris Inghauser on bass, played stand-up bass on all the tracks. Lou Romano on drums, and they're both indigenous Georgia musicians.